Healing and Heals podcast is a safe place to openly discuss, share, and explore areas in our lives where the full lifestyle of healing can reside. Join us as the Healing and Heals team opens the floor for real discussions and conversations about the things we think we know. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, everybody. This is the last episode for the year for our Healing and Heals team, and we are so excited that you guys got a chance to join us on today. So, I wanted us to kind of do a review somewhat of some of the things we talked about in the previous podcast from the year. Also, wanted to kind of get us prepared to go into the new year. Can you guys believe that we are already in December? Oh my goodness gracious alive. We are already in December and on the 8th day of December, right? So we don't have very long to go in December, and we'll be in 2025. So we're going to do a quick run through review, just kind of remind everybody what the Healing and Heals ministry is about. We also have Corey online. So we'll be hitting on how, we have our He Heals ministry and some things that we have done this year with them and we'll have coming up. We're going to talk about Like a Flower. They're going to be kicking off in January in 2025 as well. So we're just going to kind of briefly go over, hey, how are you? We're going to kind of go over a few little things, and then we're going to get to what we do best, heal in the things we think we know. So I'm going to kick it off. Of course, we have had an amazing year. We have added to our team. We have joined forces with the He Heals ministry. Hey, Mateo, back there. We've joined forces with the He Heals ministry, and we did Knights of the Round Table, which, if you guys didn't get a chance to see that, oh my goodness, it was so good. We had leaders at the table, and we talked about pouring into each other. And so we have to do that again. Oh, here go my little man. Y'all, today is MJ's birthday. Y'all, you say hey to the people, MJ. Say hey to the people. Hey. Did you say happy birthday to me? No, we're not doing all that. Okay. You need help? Okay, cool beans. There you go. Mom first, right? So we talked with the He Heals team, and we are going to do the Knights of the Round Table again. We enjoyed it so much, and we are going to invite more leaders to the table so that we can have real discussions about things that people in leadership go through and how to handle it. We talked about the fact that we need to address every one of our injuries. Oftentimes, we have situations that happen to us as leaders, and because we're built to endure, we just push through it. Right? We just continue to go through. We just continue to act like things don't bother us, but they really do. And every issue needs to be addressed. So we talked about field medicine and how to be able to work through and decide what things need to be addressed immediately, what things you can kind of bandage up and still make it through, what things you kind of need to completely stop what you're doing and handle. So we talked about those things, and we're going to plan to have next year that done quarterly. Also, last year, we were able to do yet another Healing and Heals conference, and it was phenomenal. We talked about digging up all the rocks in our soil. We talked about how there are some things that are in our lives that start out as little grains of sand. Maybe it was a negative comment from your parents, or maybe it was a bad relationship, but they start out as little things. And the more they are agitated, the more they grow, and they become a stony place in our heart. And it doesn't allow for the seed that God has to plant in our lives to fully take root and grow. And we talked about digging up everything. Again, we have been on this theme of addressing everything. So often, we minimize the things that we have in our lives as something that you can just handle, or I got it, or I'll be okay. And the reality is, it still needs to be addressed, even if you're going to be okay. You still got to deal with it. And so often we push things to the side and we pack them down. And then by the time they show up in other places, it's almost a surprise to us that out of the blue we had a blow up, or out of the blue now we're all of a sudden overwhelmed or depressed, or we're going through anxiety, or we're frustrated. It's not one thing that occurred. It's the things that we let build up and pile up. So going into this new year, we do not want to repeat old habits, right? Because a habit is what you're most likely to do. We do not want to keep any old habits. We want to go into the new year first, forgiving ourselves for anything we felt like we failed in the past. That's a big one, right? Yes, we want to address it, but we also need to forgive ourselves because we might not have gotten it all right. We may have missed the mark in some spaces, but at the end of the day, God has already forgiven us, and we have to learn to forgive ourselves too. So that's step number one. Learn to forgive yourself, even when you mess up, even when you disappoint yourself. Learn how to forgive yourself so that you can move forward with your healing process. Because otherwise, you're going to stay stuck in the thing you think you know. Corey, I see you done jumped on the camera.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that. No, what you're saying is very important to, I know with the Knights of the Round Table, we focus mainly on leaders, but in all the areas, in whatever level you are, it is very important because a lot of times we do that, right? We have things that go on, and we think we big and bad enough to handle it, or we just gonna put it away and we'll deal with it later. And a lot of times it's just, I mean, it's like bad fruit. You put bad fruit in a dark place long enough, it's gonna grow and it's gonna be something that you can't deal with. And it's gonna be nasty. So we do that with our emotions. We do that with the way that we feel about situations and even in relationships and those things. And so it's necessary, to make sure that at whatever level it is that there's an issue, that you address it, and not just address it with your natural words, but you address it through prayer and through the word of God, and make sure that you're doing the godly thing with your emotions and your feelings. Because a lot of times I address my emotions, but it's going to be Corey addressing emotions out of Corey's feelings. It's not going to be Corey addressing emotions out of the will of God and the word of God. So there is a difference.
Right. And Bree, you talked with your girls doing the like a flower. You kind of talked with them about where do they get their idea and their thought process of who they are. Like a lot of times the things we go through and deal with, we do that based on what we kind of think everybody's gonna think about us, or how we think we're perceived in the world. And so we put on this persona of I can handle it and I can tough it through, kind of with the idea that if I show weakness, then that will, kind of become part of my identity, or people may treat me differently. Talk to us about that.
Yes, during our first like a flower experience, we just talked about a lot of the different things that we have to uproot. Like you said, there are things that we experience as children that I know. One thing that I'm probably getting ahead of us, but that we talked about in the conference over the weekend is it the trauma takes us back to that age. So there are things that we experienced in our childhood that as adults or throughout our lives trigger us and take us back to moments when we weren't our best selves. Or we even talked about how social media influences the way that we view ourselves or the identity that we have. But in actuality, we just have to get that from God. And that's one thing that I'm really excited about pushing for is just continuing to dive into the Word of God and see how see not just how, but that it does apply to our current and just making it make sense more to our younger generation, young ladies.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. We had a phenomenal team of people coming to our church this weekend. They were here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And shout out to Soup and Miss Linda and their entire group that came to Love
Yeah.
Fellowship on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We thoroughly enjoyed the teaching, the learning. Honestly, it put us in a mind blown setting to where some things that we've read over and over in the text just jumped out, and we had so much more clarity and understanding of the true depth of things that were said in the word. Again, what we think we know, right? Like there's some texts that he said that were so simple, like even children memorize it, and he just expounded upon it and gave us a complete new revelation on what those things meant. And going forward, one of the things he had talked about was a mule ministry, Mule, mule ministry. So I didn't know this, but a mule is a hybrid animal, right? It's between a donkey and a actual mare or horse. And one of the animals has like 67 chromosomes, I think he said, and the other one has like 65. No, it's 65 and 63, because the mule ends up with 64 chromosomes, which means he cannot reproduce. And so because he can't reproduce, you just basically have to get another one. Like there's no generational line to a mule. And he talked about how the mule puts in all this effort, and they're hardworking and they're very valuable, and they are, they put forth all this energy and they get a lot accomplished. But at the end of their life, there's nothing for them to pass on. They just die. And everything that they have done pretty much dies with them. So he talked about not being in the state to where we're so busy just accomplishing things. Not that the things that we're not accomplishing are not good, but it goes back to the very first message I ever preached. Do you want good or do you want God? Because we're doing a lot of good things, right? Like we're feeding the homeless with Healing in Heels, we're reaching out to leadership, and we're training the babies, and we're developing all these programs, and we're doing the podcast, and we're doing all these things. But if we stopped, who would be able to pick it up from us and carry it on? And going into this new year, I think we need to be more focused on the quality of our productivity, not just our productivity, because we've been productive this year. We've accomplished some great things. We've touched a lot of lives. There are a lot of people who have been blessed by this ministry in one way or the other. But we have to make sure that not only are we being productive, but that if we're no longer on the scene, can what we do still stand? And so I think that we need to look at that for our entire lives. Like if we're parents, if we're no longer here, can your children survive? Do they have the skills that they need to be able to make it? If mama or daddy can't pray anymore, can they pray for themselves? If you happen to be incapacitated for some amount of time, can they wash their own clothes? Can they manage their lives to the degree that they can, obviously, on their own? Go ahead, Bree.
I'm in my classroom. I was like, "Meep, meep." Yes, I'm actually preparing to. I'm going to be off on Tuesday from work, and so what I do in my classroom is, and I hate not being at work, but what I do in my classroom is I give out jobs to students, and then while I'm here. If I do something that's their job, I'm like, hey, this is what you do. When I'm not, like, even when I am here, they still do that job. So that in my absence, the classroom still runs smoothly. Everybody has an understanding of what everybody's role is. Each role is important. Each role is necessary. But if you don't take the time to set that up, if then it's like everything is on the substitute. Somebody who has nothing to do with the environment that you're in, trying to come in and figure stuff out, as opposed to if you're doing the groundwork. Then when you're not here, if you have to take some time away, everybody already knows how to step up. You've already um clone Tyrone, so to speak.
Hmm. I absolutely agree with that, Corey.
I was gonna say, we, I'll say as parents, I think we do a really good job of instructing our kids on what's next, what they need for the next level of life, and all those things. But spiritually, we don't do as good of job because we feel like the things that we know are things that were gifted, only gifted to us, right? God gave me a gift to pray. God gave me a gift of prophecy. God gave me these gifts, and we feel like it's not something that I really put effort into. when the reality is, to understand prayer, I had to study, I had to do it, right? I had to commit myself to it, to, speak whatever God tells me. I had to listen. I had to develop that relationship with Him. I had to sit down with other people that had those gifts and understand how to use them and what to say and when to say and all the things, right? And so it is a different mindset that we have to ensure that spiritually, the things that I have, I one understand that they can be taught to my children, right? I can give them the things, I can give them the knowledge that I've gained in church, in relationship with God, following pastors, all the things. I can give them that. And then I have to be committed to doing it, right?
Right.
I'm committed to teaching you how to clean my house because I don't want my house nasty. So I have to be committed to training you to pray because I don't want your heart nasty. I want your relationship with God to be something that you're proud of and I'm proud of.
Bree?
That's what he kind of got back to what I was gonna say, because like, even if my kids don't, like, even if Mateo, who is in here setting up everything in my classroom, does not become a teacher, I'm gonna instill in him the desire to work toward goals, the desire to work, like, so even if they don't, like, my kids don't have the same gifts that I have, I'm gonna instill a desire to get to know God so that he can, like, delight yourself in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of, so, like, he'll know which way to go. He'll know what to do, or he'll know what his true purpose is, because he's gotten so close to God. I can do that. I can live my life in a way that says that this is what where I get my peace from, or where I get my joy from, or where I get my strength from. Doesn't mean that he's always going to see me getting everything right, but he's going to see me going back to God for everything that I need, and that I can't pass on, even if the other stuff doesn't necessarily apply from woman to boy. So yes.
Right. I 1,000% agree with both of those. I think that when it comes to training or teaching, discipling, raising, whatever word you want to term it, within our household, we have a standard. Like Corey said, I want you to clean my house because I don't want my house nasty, or ultimately I don't want your heart nasty, or I'm gonna teach you these things as far as like how to pray and how to find your way to God because I don't want you to be lost. And so when it comes to doing those things inside our household, generally we do a pretty decent job at that. When it comes to doing it outside our household, and this is where we're going to heal in the things we think we know, of course, right? When it comes to doing it outside our household, when it comes to people that we don't necessarily have the best relationships with, the one I really want to deal with is when it's a broken relationship. Like when there has been hurt, there has been trauma, there has been some negative thing that has happened, and now we got to deal with that type of relationship, to where not not necessarily that I have to teach you or train you, but do I have the same level of compassion for you, that if the Lord were to tell me I needed to do XYZ for you, or we talked about it today during our life application class about it's easy to love the easy people, right? It's easy to deal with the people who at your job are always helpful and always polite. It's easy to deal with, the spouse, who is everything is going great. But how do we process and handle it when it's not so great, but we're still assigned? Like we still got to work together. I'm not going to quit my job. My check good. You obviously not leaving your job. We still have to coexist. How do we manage dealing with those type of situations when we have to still show that love and compassion, and show our training, right? How do we deal with that, Corey?
It's I smile because that's a tough place to be, right? Because you're talking about um someone, let's just say at work, someone undermines you, or puts you in a position where there could be some negative impact to your job, your pay, your position, whatever. That is a hard place, right? Because we rest a lot on what our job provides us. Like that is a big part of, like, who are you? Where I am XYZ at this company and I do this and I do that. I one of the guys at church today asked me what I do, and I had to try to figure out in what capacity and what place he was talking about, right? So when he started talking about work, then I am this person, right? This is a huge part about me, and then you talking about somebody that undercuts me, undermines me. It is a hard thing to turn around then and say I will still show the love of God. I won't treat them any differently even though I know you did this to me or you tried to do this to me or whatever those things are. That's not an easy place. You ask, how do you do it? It takes being able to one have the emotions that you're having, right? If I'm upset, I'm okay. I'm okay to be upset. I'm okay to be disappointed. I'm okay to not like what's going on, but I can't lash out, right? I have to find a place to be able to put that energy. I have to find a place to be able to release whatever it is I need to release, whether it's talking to friends or whoever I can talk to. As a single man, I have to try to find someone that I can talk to about my emotions and get that stuff out because I don't want we talked about this the other day. When you turn down your emotions, the whole thing goes down. It's not like the soundboard where you can adjust. Well, I'm gonna turn down trust, but I'm gonna keep love in place, or I'm gonna turn down love or disappointment, and I'm gonna keep this. It doesn't work like that. Once you start adjusting those emotions, well, I'm just not gonna deal with people. I'm just not gonna do this. It adjusts all down, all across the board. So you're not the same, right? You weren't built to do those things. So it takes relationship, people that you trust that you can talk to, takes relationship in God and understanding what the word says about that situation. Understanding that my emotions do matter, but they don't matter more than my responsibility to God. And so we have to
Right.
put everything in perspective of how much weight it actually carries.
1000% agree. Bree?
Essentially what Cora was saying, especially, and I love that he also put into perspective that our emotions matter. That Jesus had emotions, but it's always the nevertheless that we have to submit to. It's like I can have all of these feelings. I can express those feelings to God. God gave me those feelings, but it's my nevertheless that's gonna show that regardless, I'm committed to why you have me showing up here again. Because I always tell people when they ask me why I moved the way that I moved my job, I'm like, if it's time for me to go, God will definitely let me go. So otherwise, I'm gonna do what I'm called to do because when it's time for me to go, he either gonna make me feel very uncomfortable or he gonna move me himself. So it's just you have to really understand, and one knowing that you are called to what you called to. Because if you fighting somebody else's battle, then that's a completely another like other situation. Like because sometimes we fight other people's battles. But and another thing that from the weekend conference that we had, Tyler in the background toddling, so ignore that. But over the weekend that we had is understanding where the real enemy is. A lot of times we won't be like we won't be people won't be frustrated with us, they'll be frustrated with the God in us or the assignment in us. And it's like I'm they said something this weekend. Let me get I ain't gonna find my notebook. But I'm not gonna hold on to anger with you. Give it to me. I'll take it. I'm not gonna hold on to anger with you. This is upsetting us. Um about something that you and I both know you did wrong. So
Right.
at the end of the day, I can afford to forgive you and move forward in that situation and just and not and not hold on to that because it'll make my heart dirty. So I think that the
Yeah.
main thing is acknowledging the emotions that you have about the situation, bringing that to God, and then saying, nevertheless, God, I trust what you said about this situation, and you help me through this because if not, if I do it, it's going to be really ugly.
So with that being said, I'm sorry, Corey, go ahead. You had something else.
No, I was gonna say, can we just talk about the fact that or just address the fact that sometimes we need to say something, right? A lot of times we have things happen to us, and because we're Christians, we're like, I'm not gonna entertain this whatever, and I'm not gonna address this whatever. Well, sometimes we need to say something because people will continue to do what they've always done because you never told
Right.
me that it hurt your feelings. You never told me that was an issue.
Um,
This is just how I've always handled you, and you never told me any different. Right. So we have to be, we can't look at everything as they know what they did. They know how that made me feel. Do they? Did you tell them, hey, no, we that's not a thing. Like we can't do this. That makes me not trust you when you deal with things this way, or that makes me, that hurt my feelings. I, that's a hard thing to say, right? To essentially strangers, that hurt my feelings, or this makes me feel like this, because we try to disassociate our public persona with our emotions. And realistically, we got to get to a place where we carry all of it together. We handle all of it together, so we're not putting ourselves in a position where we have a person at work and another half at church and another half at home. If you do the math, that's three halves. Uh, we got to make sure that everything that we are is getting addressed. And sometimes we have to be that person that says, hey, excuse me, we need to have a conversation about what happened so that this won't be an issue again. Because a lot of times we hold it and we keep it because we never said anything. We never did anything about it. And then we allow them to continue to do the same thing when realistically we just never said that it was an issue.
Absolutely, 1000% agree. What I was going to add in is that what we tend to do is my grandma used to call it a pocketbook, so that's what I see her call it. But we tend to put things in the compartments of our pocketbook, or men wallets. But when a lady gets a purse, there's different compartments inside the bag, and they're different shapes, they're different sizes, they have different capacities, and there can be hidden codes and hidden spots inside of. I have one bag, I know it probably has like at least five different little zippers inside. There's like a zipper on the outside, there's like one on the inside here, there's one in the center pocket, and then there's one on the other side. And some of them are small, some of them are large. But what we tend to do is with our life, we put this piece in this little pocket, right? So can I share the story, Corey? Yeah, I'm sure. So we had a situation at church, and Corey said something that kind of offended me, right? And I was just like, um, I don't like it. Let's go have a conversation. We had the conversation. We're good, right? But typically, what I would have done was, oh, okay, that's just how he talked, and I would have put it in this pocket, right? And I would have zipped it away. And then the next time something occurred, I just would have put that in this pocket and zipped it away. And then the next time this occurred, I would have put it in the pocket and zipped it. Eventually, the pocket is going to become so full that I can't put anything else in it. And now I have harbored bitterness in my heart. And like we talked about during the conference, it starts out as something small, but because we don't address everything, we allow space for the enemy to tiptoe and agitate and ball up and create, and then it snowballs into this giant thing. And then all of a sudden, now I treat him as though he's my enemy. And you always da 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 yada yada yada, and I'm blown up. And like he said, but did you say anything when it was this little, or did you just tuck it away? And we do the same thing with God. Like we'll say, okay, God, heal me, deliver me, set me free, but don't bother this little pocket. Because I like this little thing hidden over here. I don't want to talk about that. Or okay, God, you can have whatever you want. Use me. And then but don't unzip this little pocket right here. Because this got something that's kind of touchy to me, and I don't really want you to agitate that. And we do that, and then when things go unaddressed and we build up this resentment, we assume that everybody understands why we're walking around angry or got an attitude or half speaking to you. We were cool, now all of a sudden you don't even return the phone calls. And this is like across the board: family relationships, work relationships, church stuff. This is not just applicable in one space. So I was praying about it because I have no um how to no, my filter is not as good, right? At least I don't think it is. And I feel like sometimes I don't say anything trying to preserve or protect the other person, because if I really said to you how you really made me feel, then I might break you and you'll be crying, and then now I look bad because I'm supposed to be, saved, sanctified woman of God, and here I am popping off at the mouth and rolling my neck, and so I don't want to give that image. So I just usually compress it, right, and bury it, and then I have all this hate. Am I Is the hate any less of a sin, or the resentment any less of a sin than me popping off? Like, really, they're both equally wrong. But we do that, and then we section ourselves off, like I'm this way at work and I'm this way at church. I had this statement that I used to make, where I would say, okay, this is Christina, your friend, talking, not Christina the preacher or Christina the this, but I'm totally me all the time. I'm the mama, the preacher, the singer, the prophet, prayer, whatever you want to refer. I'm all of that all the time. And one always spills into the other. I can't section it out and just say, well, I can put this little piece of me over here and it won't affect everything else. If you put the leaven in the loaf, it leavens the whole loaf. You can't drop a piece of hatred or anger or disappointment or frustration into your life and it don't affect every part of your life. And we forget that. And then when things blow up, we're looking surprised. But should you really be surprised? I mean, it's going to affect everywhere. Bree?
When you said that, it made me think about Pastor always. Thank you, Mateo. Pastor always will have a cup, and he'll be like, "What if I put a drop of pee in there?" And I'm just like,
Right.
"Why is it always a drop of pee?" He's like, "It's just a little pee. Would you drink it?" And it's like, "No, why not?" Like, cause I don't care how much it's a microscopic amount. I'm still not gonna want that. And so a lot of times that's how we offer ourselves to God. It's like it's just a small area, and it's like no, but that small area, it negatively impact it makes everything else look like it's dirty. It makes everything else look like it's not healed. It makes everything. And then when you were talking about the I'm not gonna say I'm really good at compartmentalize because we try not to do it. But I have done in the past the compartmentalization. I have also put things, and then when it's full, now I got to pull stuff out to put stuff in, and then that's when you get stuff that happened 19 years ago, and you're like, what does got to do with anything we're talking about? Well, I'll tell you what. It was right here. Okay, it was right here, and so a lot of times, and it's still relevant because every time you open that compartment, that scent, that flavor, that feeling has been sealed in fresh. So every single time you open it to go in and put something else, it's fresh. It's just like it just happened. And so that's again one thing I'm trying not to do as we move forward. But because again, it'll impact. It's so many things that I be talking like it's so many things that we're supposed to be doing now that are so much bigger than what we're willing to be open to because we know we holding on to something. And so it's hard to receive when you know you holding on to something that you have to let go. And so
Hmm.
we prayerful about that.
Yes. And can I add one more thing to that? When you said when we seal it in is fresh, if anybody has ever had like meat that you just bought from the store and you put it in your refrigerator and you close the refrigerator and then the meat goes bad because it can only stay fresh so long, and then it's going to
That's
start to spoil and it's
mhm.
going to have an odor, and then you're going through your house trying to figure out what is that doggone smell, like what is that in my house, and you're just searching room by room by room by room trying to figure out where is this smell coming from, and it gets worse and worse the longer it takes you to find it, right? The longer it takes you to figure out what it is that you have packed away that is now creating this horrible odor in your entire house. And it gets in everything. It makes your furniture stink, it makes your clothes stink. Like it infects your entire house. Our lives are the same exact way. Yes, when you put it in there, it was a fresh thing. But the longer you let it sit, the worse the smell gets, and the worse it permeates the house, and the worse it smells throughout. Until the point where it gets to the point where it's now inviting things in, because now you got bugs and you got maggots and you get flies, and now it's bringing along worse things with it. And it's like, but if I had just cooked it when it was fresh, we wouldn't have had this. I could have actually enjoyed the process had I dealt with it when it was fresh. Go ahead, Bree.
And can I say also, just to piggyback off the piggyback, that I'm echoing, but it's okay. That we are really good at treating the symptoms. So like if I seen the bugs and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, now I got a bug problem. No, no, you don't have a bug problem. You don't have anger management issues. You don't have trust issues. You've been rejected before and you've held on to that for a very long time. And what you're seeing now is you seeing flowers. You're not seeing the things that are deeply rooted. You just seeing leaves and weeds and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, I just need this to be cut off. Like we're really good at cutting stuff off. We rather cut stuff off, cut people off, than uproot the things that are inside of us. And a lot of times you
Right.
cut some, I'm just gonna grow back. Like, but versus if you uproot it, it can't grow back if you take those roots out. So a lot of times, like I'm saying all of that to say, we treat symptoms instead of getting to the root of the issue. Okay.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. And Corey, I want you to jump in here, but I got one more thing that I want you to jump in. I The other thing that we are very, very good with is we are very good with finding labels that make, hallelujah, Jesus, that make us comfortable in our mess. We can find a psychological, theoretical, doctoral explanation for why we feel like we feel rather than deal with it. We just want to find a label that makes us feel better about staying in the mess. Oh, I one day I'm happy and one day I'm sad, so I'm bipolar. That's my explanation. Nothing against mental illness, it is real. But sometimes we're attaching names to things just to make us feel comfortable, so I don't have to get out of it. I have an explanation and an excuse for it. Jay preached a word probably a few months back. And he said, as long as you have an excuse for it, you will never leave it alone. As long as you can explain why you're doing it, as long as you can give a justification for it, you will never get rid of it. Because if I can explain to you why I have mood swings and why sometimes I speak to you and sometimes I don't, if I can explain to you that, well, my daddy did this to me, and so I got daddy issues, and so I don't trust any men. No, ma'am. No, sir. What you need to stop doing is attaching the title of daddy issues with it and go back and find where that root is. And like she said, dig it up. Don't just label it. Dig it up, because it's not an explanation that I need. I need you healed, delivered, and set free. God didn't say I came that you have more explanations. I didn't come that you have more explanations. I came that you have life and life more abundantly. Ain't no explanations and excuses involved in that. And in order for you to have life and have it more abundantly, you have to get rid of, like we said the last episode, bag lady, you need, or man, you need to get rid of all that junk that you done let spoil and sour and maggot infested and fly infested. You need to get rid of all of that up out your heart. Stop labeling it. Stop giving it an excuse. Stop giving it a reason and get rid of it. Corey?
I think sometimes we get used to the stench and we don't see what that is, right? I won't call anybody's name, but I've been in some people's houses that it smell like animals, right? They have animals. They get used to it. They get used to that scent. They don't smell it. It's all over them. Everybody else can smell it, but it's just a normal way. So when I'm not addressing my issues, my attitude as an introvert, and I don't want to deal with people, and I don't show emotion, and I don't do these things, that stench is all over me. I don't smell that. I don't see that as an issue. I don't understand why you have a problem with me in that way. And so it really takes, doing some self evaluation. looking at you and saying, all these people are saying similar things or the same thing. Could it be that there is an issue? Even if it is something that I don't like when you tell me, this thing, or you say, not I don't treat people right, or I say the wrong things, or I got a bad attitude, whatever the thing is. Could it be that we sit down and we say, okay, I don't think it's that way, but let me look into it. Let me look back over my track record and my relationships to see if this is something that not only has come up before, but I can see why they took it this way. We had
Hmm.
Thanksgiving dinner with our family, and the idea was that the older generation sit down, the younger generation come in and do all the cooking and serving and everything, right? And so when I got there, I did the Corey thing. I started kicking my elders out of the kitchen, and like, we supposed to be in there, we supposed to be doing this, we got this, don't worry. And so one of the elders, she sat me down and she was like, you just came in there and you was just forcing us, and you just this big dude kicking us out, this, that, and the other, and pounding your chest. And she was like, she didn't like it. And so we started talking, and I had to, even though my intentions and even the way that I did it wasn't mean, and she was joking with me, but I still had to kind of reevaluate that interaction, right? Because she brought it up a few times, so it was some truth in there to what she was saying and how she felt. And then when I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, I could have done it differently because not everybody was in place in time, so they felt like they needed to step in. And when we got there, it didn't look like they normally saw it. And some of the things that they would normally expect, they didn't see those things. So because they didn't trust us, right, and we didn't put them in a safe place. Now, all those things she said, yes, that makes sense. Now, I'm sorry that I put you in that place, right? So we have to address the things and look at the things and reevaluate and make sure that what we see is what's really there, right? And not just everybody just against me, everybody hate us. They really don't know you like that. Everybody experience you for a small bit of time and they say the exact same thing. Might be something in your heart that you need to change. You might need to go outside. You might need to leave your house for a minute and then walk in, and now you smell what we smell. You need to get outside of the way that you normally think. We're supposed to be renewing our mind every day. And it's because we can get trapped in a mindset and a thought process that says there's nothing wrong with me. Your house smell like spoiled meat. No, it don't. My house smell like me. What's in there? What's inside you that's making it smell like that? Or you live like that, or you treat people like that, or you distance yourself from people because you say that my emotions are so super sensitive that they gonna make me do something to people that's gonna turn them away from me and God.
Bree, I'm gonna let you go, and then I'll say what I was gonna say.
Okay. So yesterday, again, such a amazing weekend. Um,
It was.
uh, Soup was talking about your garden and your life. And he's like, if your neighbor comes over into your neighborhood, into your garden or your yard, and there are minefields, and he steps on one, that's your fault. Like, it's your fault. It's our job to diffuse the things in us that would be triggered by other people, so that when they come over, and that's something that I really was like, I was horrible about accepting that. Cause I'm like, no, because you don't know what's in his yard. Don't come over here. But at the same time, it's like, no, we have to do the work in diffusing the things that we've allowed to just lay dormant or just sit in our yards or in our gardens, and grow things around them. Because again, it doesn't matter how good our fruit looks or how good our flowers bloom, stuff like that. That's gonna invite people over to us. And when they get invited over here and then they step on something that triggers us, now we out here hurting people because we decided to keep on serving, which is great. But we served and we built all of this stuff on top of minefields. And so it's like Corey said, if somebody can come over just for a second and be like, okay, I see what they say. It's like we can't always take offense to that. Everything is not like you said, a hater move. Some people just love you. And are like, this not it. This, I don't want you to continue doing that. If you do, you're not gonna end up with haters. We gonna end up not loving yourself. And so that's, yeah. Yep, yep.
I just wanted to add to that, that what is in you will come out. Um, Soup talked today about, if you were to take an apple, like a picture of an apple, orange, and like a banana, and somebody was to pass you a cup of juice, you couldn't see what was in it, you just drank it and tasted it, and it was apple juice. Could you go and match to the picture? And what he was saying is, what is inside of you should be able to mimic what it is that we see. So if what you're telling me is that you are part of Healing and Heals ministry, and you're a Christian, or you're a president of a company, or you're a math teacher, when things come out of your mouth, when things come out of your spirit, when things and behaviors come out of you, it should represent what you say you are. If you squeeze an apple and you see orange juice coming out of it, something is wrong. So if we're saying that we are over it, right? That's the thing during the holiday season. I'm just over it. I don't have to go around my family, or I don't have to go to this, gathering for work or whatever. I'm over whatever they did to me, but I ain't got to be around them, and, I ain't got to deal with them. Well, if that's what's coming out of you, then how can you tell me you're okay? Like, that's not what healed look like. That's just like me showing you an apple and telling you orange juice coming out of it. That don't match. If you're telling me you're good, if you're telling me that you're healed and you've gotten over something, but you still can't speak to the people, well, that don't match. Whatever is in you gonna come out, and when it does, can people tell that you are what you say you are, or would they be looking at an apple that's giving them orange juice? Corey?
It's a level of vulnerability that comes with healing that we are very uncomfortable with. It takes being put back in a position that they might hurt me again. This might happen again, and I have to be okay enough to say I can face it, I can deal with it. I'm not saying somebody knocking you over your head and you just stand there like, okay, one more time ain't gonna hurt me. I'm just saying in an actual relationship where if I'm willing, if I, especially my family, right? Let's talk about my family because those are typically people that at some point in time I'm gonna run across them again, right? I'm gonna be at a family function. I'm gonna be at something, and their names gonna come up. They gonna come up. They gonna be there, whatever the case is. And so I have to be in a place where I've done the work. I've addressed whatever the issues are. I've gone through my process of healing my emotions, and then putting myself in a position to love them, even though they hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
It is a thing that can happen, right? I was talking to a friend of mine, and they have she has a teenage son, and the son really hadn't had a relationship with the dad. And as a young man, my dad wasn't around, but I always longed for that relationship, right? And a lot of times we feed in our head, I don't need no daddy. I don't need no daddy because he ain't here. He ain't taught me nothing, this, that, and the other. And the reality of the situation is the desire to have a father that loves you is far greater than the one that pushes him away. And that push away is because I don't want to be vulnerable enough that this hurts me if I don't get it the way that I think I should. And so when
Right.
we talking about renewing our mind, changing the way that we think, having compassion, showing mercy, all these things change the way that I look at him and my expectation of what he can provide. Right. So it is a very vulnerable place, and it is a very difficult thing, but it's necessary because I can't live my life as a brick. I can't live my life as a steel box that I don't show emotion. Like I'm a goofball. I like to laugh. I like to play. I like doing all these things. And if I'm hurt and I'm in a box, I'm not myself. It's not something that I can turn on and turn off. It is a completely different person who is ineffective in all areas of my life.
1,000% agree. So recapping for those people who just joined in on the live, we have been talking about a number of things. We talked about compartmentalizing and not dealing with each and every injury, encounter, situation, and allowing it to fester and develop into something that infects and affects all aspects of our lives, even though we think we're keeping it compartmentalized. um, it definitely spills over. We also talked about making sure that we are saying something, not just taking it on the chin, so to speak, or holding back responses in order to save other people. When God kind of checked me on that, he was like, I was like, well, they can't handle it if I say da 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 da. If I gave them a piece of my mind, they really wouldn't be able to take it. And he was like, and who made their reaction or their emotions your responsibility? Now, am I saying just go ham on people? Absolutely not. But you are not responsible for their reaction. You're not responsible for, like Bree said, their yard. If something you said triggered them, that is on them to handle. You cannot be baby Jesus and heal and deliver and think you good enough to cover and protect everybody, because that's not your job. It is your job to deal with your stuff. And if something bothered you, if something offended you, or even if you bothered or offended someone else, it is your responsibility to get that together. It's not their responsibility. If you say, well, I'll do it when he apologized or she apologized or when they stop hurting me or what, that is not your responsibility to worry about somebody else's actions, reactions, or even their conversation about you outside of that is not your responsibility. It is your responsibility to manage how you handle it and how you deal with it and how you feel about it. And in this holiday season, there are a lot of people whose families are not as close as they used to be. And a lot of people say, oh, well, all the big mamas are gone, or, whoever the matriarch or patriarch of your family is no longer here. And now that they're not here, the family ain't like it used to be. I have seen that so many times on social media where people say, family just ain't like it used to be, and blood ain't always thicker than water and all of that. And I'm not saying that people don't grow apart or they're not in different seasons in their lives, or, that there's some things that we just can't overcome in certain seasons of our life. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is the only reason that you guys would be blaming our lack of connection or unity in any area because one person is missing, one or two things occurred. Either that person didn't do what we talked about in the beginning, which is pass their gift on to somebody else that could continue it. Because if this matriarch or patriarch is gone, what happened to the one that was before them? Somebody had to pass it on to them to be able to hold things together. Somebody had to train them on how to keep people together. But if nobody passed that on, then somebody's got to learn the skill and pick it up. The other thing that could have happened is we just took this opportunity to do what it is we wanted to do anyway. And we just use this as an excuse. Again, we found all these labels. And I'm not saying that the labels are not factual. I'm just saying the label can't be your excuse. You got to if you really want to deal with healing, you got to get rid of all the excuses as to why you can't. I can't because they keep doing the offense. They keep hurting me. Or the last time I forgave them, they came back and did the same thing. Or it's a constant behavior. Okay, well then why are you still sitting in the presence of the constant behavior? Because that's a you thing. That's not a them thing. If you're saying that they're the continual problem, then why are you still in the continual situation? That's a you thing. That's not a them thing. And I think once we start taking ownership and responsibility of our own healing, and we realize that I can't do nothing about you, but I can do everything about me, Soup said today, he kept saying different things, and he was like, if there's nobody doing this, then whose problem in that? And I said, us. And he was like, nope, don't you include me in that. No, there's you. I'm doing my part. And it got to the point where every time he said it, then I could say me. And he was like, you get it now. But that hit my spirit differently. It's not about you. It's not about the offense that you did. It's about how I handle it and how I manage my own emotions and my feelings. It's about how I manicure and take care of my own yard spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, financially. It is about how I manage me, because you can't do anything about anybody else. You can't make them love you. You can't make them hate you. You can't make them stand up for you. You can't make them tear you down. But you can do something about how you live your life and how you want to represent God. Because people gonna lie, people gonna cheat, people gonna steal, people gonna mistreat you. It's in the Bible. It is certain you shall have trouble. Where you think the trouble coming from? It coming from folks. It's coming from folks. So if your explanation is I can't because of this, or I won't because of that, or they this or they that, you need to get they out your mouth. They ain't the problem. When you're ready to really heal, that conversation is me. It ain't about them and they. It's about me. And until we get to that point, you're not really ready to walk this gangster walk, as Soup call it, and heal in the things that you think that you know. Y'all got last comments?
No, it's
Bree.
a really good
Oh,
conversation.
Corey, I'm sorry. There you go.
No, I was just saying it's a really good conversation, and it does um, kind of enlighten you to what you need to focus on in relation to what's going on in you and how you deal with what you face.
Yes,
Bree.
I agree. It kind of brought me back to one of our previous shows when we did Heal from the Inside Out. The first thing we have to do is just look intrinsically and see one, what's our motivation to be healed, but also how bad do we want it? Do we want it so that we can get the heat off of
Right.
ourselves, or do we really want to be better? Because better, a lot of times, better requires us to uproot some things that we thought we were right about. So, really, a conversation for me.
I absolutely enjoyed it, and I am super excited about everything that we have coming up in 2025. We have some amazing events planned from every aspect of the ministry. We have our Like the Flower, who is going to be coming in January, and they are going to be kicking off the year strong. We have He Heals, which is going to continue to do their podcasting episodes, as well as the culmination of all of our groups sitting down with leaders as we enter the round table. And then, of course, Healing and Heals will be doing our annual Healing and Heals conference. And you guys, God has already given me the word for that. And you are going to be amazed if you really are ready to heal in the things that you think you know. We have several avenues and several ministries that are assisting with that. And if you just tap in, if you just join in and walk this journey with us, we could definitely help take part in your healing journey. We are not licensed therapists nor psychologists. Please, by all means, go see your licensed people. However, we are living this life out the best we can. And it is some gangster stuff, and we're letting you guys in and behind the scenes on our journey as we heal in the things that we think we know. So until 2025, you guys, I hope that you have enjoyed us this year and that you grab a friend, grab a partner, grab someone that you know and love dearly, and join us in 2025 as we continue to heal in the things that we think we know. Peace.
Yeah.